Gentlemen, my distinguished guests here, it is a pleasure to be able to welcome you here in this panel. I am Elif Bereketli. I'm a journalist and a presenter for TRT World, and I will be moderating this panel. We will be talking about women's contribution to the search for peace, because when women are routinely underrepresented in peacemaking processes, even though, which is the interesting part, is that their participation has been shown to improve mission effectiveness and advance stability in peacemaking. I have this interesting figure here, for example. Between 1992 and 2019, women constituted, on average, 13% of negotiators, just 6% of mediators, and again, 6% of signatories in major peace processes around the world. Figures are striking, especially keeping in mind that, again, when women participate in peace processes, the resulting agreement is more durable. So why don't we have more women in peacemaking processes? The title of this panel might strike some people's attention because it demonstrates that women, obviously, are still not enjoying equal opportunity, and also it implies that peace is something that men do and women contribute to. So it would be, if we have enough time, it would be interesting to broaden the context and maybe touch upon the role of women in diplomacy as well. This is an age-old but unfortunately timeless question which constantly begs for a fresh perspective. This is why we have our distinguished guests here to bring us that perspective, hopefully. To my left is Irina Vla. She is the governor of the Autonomous Territorial Unit of Gagauzia of the Republic of Moldova. Next to Mrs. Vla is Rachel Ovur-Omamo, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Kenya. Emina Jabarova, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine. Günay Afandieva, President of the International Turkic Culture and Heritage Foundation. And Ayşegül Biçer. She is a representative for the Mothers of Diyarbakır. Before we start, just one more quick reminder that if time permits, I would actually very much like to take questions from the audience as well. So in the last 10-15 minutes, please be prepared to join the conversation. So I want to start with you, Mrs. Vla. We see peace agreements failing all too frequently. And as I said in the beginning, when women participate in peace processes, the resulting agreements are always more durable and better implemented. So what's about women that makes it more effective in peacemaking?
Merhaba, Sayın Moderator, Sayın Kenya Dışişleri Bakanı, Sayın Ukrayna Dış İşleri Bakanı Yardımcısı, Sayın Türk Kültür hem Mirası Kurumun Başkanı, Sayın Biçer, evolüsyon prosesinde insanlara her zaman karşı geldi zorluklar hem korkular. Lazım söylemeye hani insanlar da sıkça kendi kendine problema kurardılar. Tabiat da seyrek yaptı insanlara problema, ne kadar insanlar tabiata. Cinkler, su resurslarını korumamak, ağaçların kırılması, solun hem toprağın bulanması, insanlar kendi ayırdı bu yaşamayı. Bitkide biz daha büyük egoist olduk. Biz daha az düşünürüz birbirimizi için hem tabiat için. Bilim adamları söylerler, hani ziyadesi kataklizmalar bitki asırda insana bitirir. İnsanın zararı dünyanın ekosistemine gitgide daha belli olur. Bugün biz görüyoruz o kötü fenomenleri, nice politika hem sosyal polarizasyası, popülizm, inanmamak kuvvetlere, başka insanlara hem komşulara da. İstememek çalışma cümle için hem kendi egoizmanın kullanması. Tazede agresya hem daha az diyalog. Hangisi beraber niyetleri vardı nasıl belli etsin. Bu zamanlar ekonomik infrastrukturaları hem sosyal tabiatlarımız zarar yaparlar yerlere nerede biz yaşarız hem engel ederler uşakların geleceğimizi. 2021 yılda tamamlanır 30 yıl Moldova Respublika'nın bağımsızlığına. Doğrudan söylediğinden tamamlanır 30 yıl Moldova'nın dil öğrenilmiş derslerine. Ben var nasıl söyleyeyim, hani biz dildik hazır, kendi başına devleti götürme hem demokrasi modelini düzme. Bizim bağımsızlık historiası başladı büyük sevinmelikten. Başımıza düştü serbestlik için. Biz sevindik bağımsızlığa ama anlamadık hani serbestliği kabul etmediğini. Biz lazım alalım üstümüze sorumlulukları da. Devlet yöneticilerin uğrunda da biz anlamadık hani lazım sayma başka insanları hem onların kendi bakışları. Biz lazım kanunları koruyalım. Her biri lazım pay alsın ekonomika hem sosyal soruşlarında. Demokrasiyanın temel elementlerini saymamak yok eder demokrasiyi. Bunda 30 yıldan sonra biz isteriz sadece kullanma demokrasiyalı. Pek az insan ister olma demokrasiyanın temelinden. Çalışma, düzme hem ilerletme demokrasiyi. Moldova'nın demokrasiyası pek yufka. Onun yufkalı bağlı politiklerin cevapsızlığından. Pek sık politikler değiştirirler devletin prioritetlerini kendi prioritetlerinden. Pek sık politikler kabul eder kararları yakışıklı bugünkü günedeni ama algıların olur kötü efektleri yarın. Biz karşı geliriz büyük hem kötü egoizmasından. Politika egoizması bugünkü günde bir sıra problema açar. Politika polarizasyasına hem popülizm. Politiklerin polarizasyası hem kuvvet için görüşmek insanları çekiştirir. Bitkisiz seçim kampanyaları dil bağlı ideyalarla, projelerle hem insanın yaşamasını ilerletmek niyetleriyle. O tartışmak kampanyaları, algıların temelinde durur kavga. Politikler ayırdılar insanları kendi insanlarına hem yabancılara. Diyalog kabildi. Onun yerine geldi sadece tartışmaklar. Politikler takışırlar kuvvet için da denemirler insanların aslı lazımlıklarını. Epidemiya, vaksinanın az sayısı tayinnimli ne kadar grupların interesli. Biz konuşuruz bugünkü hem dünkü günler için ama gelecek vakti hiç konuşmuyoruz. Bizim aramızda yok uslu diyalog. Onun beterine biz kabul ederiz agresiyalar hem betvalar. Popülizm, politika tartışmaların sonuçları. Popülizmaya kullanır politikler. Algıları ister daha hızlı hem daha kolay inseme. Stratejisiz hem plansız onlar kullanırlar demokratik praktikalarını aldatma insan adını. Popülizm zararlı eder hem engel eder devletin ilerletmesi. Başka bir zorluk, o internet. İnternet geçmiş asırın en büyük açılışı. Ama insanlar anladılar hani her bir işi var nasıl kullanma hem iyilik için hem kötü için. İyilerde internet yardım eder medisina, eğitim, ekonomika hem araştırmalar ileri gitsin. Kötü ileride internet yangını ateş gibi olur. Bu zamanla internet kullanır dezenformasyon hem manipülasyon için. Yakın zamanlarda insanlar lazım düşünsün faydalı instrumentler algıları yok edecek yöneişleri nice politika, polarizasyası, popülizm, dezenformasyon hem manipülasyon internet bağlantılarında. İsterim söyleme, hani Moldova yok nasıl olsun iyi yardımcı bu işte. Bizde yok o bilgiler. Ama biz var nasıl olalım yakışıklı platforma bu teknolojiyalarla denemediğini. Biz insanlar Hepsi başka başka. Bizim özellikler var nasıl olsun bizim kavi tarafımız hem yufka tarafımızda. Bizden beter nice biz kullanacağız talantlarımızı kendi başına karşı ya da faydalanma. Şimdiki pek lazımlı hazırlama evlat boylarını. Kim gelecek? Bizden sorun. Düşünme yeni dünyayı, ta iyi hem ta cevaplı dünyayı. Dünyayı hangisinde insanlar sevecek birbirini. Lazım yürenelim olma kritik tartışmalarsız. Lazım yürenelim danışma saygılıkla hem laf edelim ideyalar için hem projeler için. Ama dil insanlar için. Sağ olasınız.
Mrs. Vla, thank you so much for this. I really want to hear your experience as a female leader and the role of women in peacemaking processes. But for now, I want to turn to Mrs. Omamo. Can you please tell us, do women by nature, by composition, make better leaders, you think better peacemakers? If you come closer, I think it will be working.
Oh, it's not going on. Can you hear me?
Could you please?
Quite well?
Yes,
Okay.
I think yes.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to this forum and for the very important question that you have asked. As I was reflecting on this panel, I was struck by something that the president of Turkey said yesterday. And what he said is that we need new thinking, new reflection, a new perspective on the status quo. And in thinking about those words, I began to reflect on what does peace mean to women? And how do they contribute to peace? What is disturbing the peace amongst us today? And are the same things that are disturbing our peace the same things that disturbed our peace yesterday? And if they are different things, how will women contribute differently? And I looked at this question in terms of the aftermath of COVID-19. And you see, what COVID-19 has done is that it has disturbed our peace. So the question then becomes, how do women contribute to the restoration of peace? And what contribution did they make, if we look at it afresh, to dealing with the challenges, the threats that COVID-19 has visited upon us? And one thing we saw very clearly within our context is this. One, we must stop counting women. What we must do is account for them. And we must be able to audit their contribution. So we must see women. And what COVID-19 is doing, it is making us see women. For the first time, we are seeing that our societies are held together by health workers who are women. Everybody forgot that. We also forgot that our teachers are mainly women. And therefore, our whole social cohesive infrastructure is held up by women. We also were able to see, at least in our context, that women contribute to the service sector, to tourism, to their waiters. They're the ones that do the menial work that we don't see. Yet without them, these big sectors that hold up our societies will collapse without women. Without women in the tourism sector, it will collapse. Finally, we forgot that women feed us. In Africa, it is the small woman in her little market stall somewhere on a street selling food. And it is that food that kept us going during our lockdowns. So if the appeasement of our societies were through the efforts of ordinary women, what does it tell us? It tells us that women's contribution must be seen where it is. You don't wait until you become the Minister of Foreign Affairs to lead. Women are leading where they are, in their small spaces, as nurses, as receptionists, as market women. That is the power of women, and that is what we have to harness for peace in our time. And so for those of us who rely a lot on the support of donors, on the support of well-wishers, then it tells us, where should we put our money? We need to put our money, our ODA, our foreign direct investment, into things that build up human beings, build up women. So we need to put money into public health infrastructure. We need to put money into education. We need to put money into water and sanitation, into housing, into those things that empower women so that women, where they are in their spaces, can transform our societies. So for me, leadership is not about how high you go in the political hierarchy. It's how you transform your societies at the grassroots, how you hold up the whole architecture of our societies through mobilizing women, empowering them, educating them, providing them with tools, and ensuring that they are seen in our societies, they're accounted for, and their contribution is audited, so that we can plainly see that in this time, when the world was turned upside down, women led, they led quietly, they led powerfully, and they held up our societies. And if that story is not written, the story of how we were able to restore security, human security, in a time of great turbulence, if women's contribution is not recorded, then we will do a massive injustice to the whole idea of women's contribution, to the whole idea of leadership, and to the whole foundation of UN Resolution 1325. UN Resolution 1325 is not just about peacekeepers. It's out there in war-torn areas. It's about women keeping the peace in their homes, in our cities, in our communities, and transforming our nations. I thank you.
Interesting. Thank you, indeed. This was really interesting, especially the definition that you gave for leadership and how it could sort of be seen as a grassroots, position that transforms society silently. I find it very interesting, and that's why I want to turn to Mrs. Jabarova now and ask about whether you think is it pertinent to talk about female leadership in that sense, or leadership is just leadership and there is no female or male contribution? How do you differentiate between the two?
Selamun aleyküm, merhabalar sayın arkadaşlarım, kardeşlerim, ablacılarım, Irina Hanım, Rachel Hanım, Günay Hanım, Ayşegül Hanım. Gerçekten Antalya Diplomasi Forum'a katılmak benim için büyük bir şeref. And responding to your question, Elif Hanım, I think that leadership is something that within us. It doesn't have any it doesn't have sex. I think that it does not and cannot be divided into female or male leadership. I think that it is something that should be raised from within. And then trying to cover the questions that we've been requested to talk about during this panel discussion. And I've been requested to speak a little bit of my personal story as a Crimean Tatar indigenous people representative, as the one that for the second time has been appointed as the first deputy minister within the Ukrainian government, and this is something that never happened in the history of my country. I think that I have to speak a little bit on where my country is today, because my personal story and the situation in my country is at the moment indispensable. So for 7, almost 8 years, my country is under the war and under occupation. And I used to live in Crimea before 2014 when occupation happened, and I used to be a journalist, and I traveled Crimea back and forth trying to find the answers to those difficult questions on what is the future of my homeland? What is the future of Crimean Tatar people as indigenous people? So, of course, when you witness the occupation, when you strive against those challenges, and I had many stories of my own when, for example, I was shut down in one of the Simferopol cafeteria with the United Nations Special Envoy, when the so-called self-defense guys, but those were FSB, were blackmailing us and then bringing ultimatums and trying to squeeze out Dutch ambassador Robert Serry from Crimea, and I was mediating and communicating between the so-called self-defense guys and the special envoy. So of course these personal stories of my own give me a very special and unique experience that I try to integrate while my country is very much committed to the peaceful resolution. So where my country is today, 7% of territory is under occupation. Donbas, the eastern part, there is the war is going on. 13,000 of Ukrainians have been killed. Over 40,000 of Ukrainians have been injured. We are the 9th largest country in terms of the eternally displaced persons, with 1.5 million of Ukrainians being eternally displaced like myself, because I abandoned Crimea with understanding that I cannot remain an objective journalist and cannot keep on working in Crimea. So today, my whole profile, my whole professional capacity and path is devoted to the struggle to get my homeland, Crimea, back. With Crimea, the situation is, even though there is no war, but there is an occupation, and probably the superficial feeling that any one of you, let's guess if you go there, can feel, this is fear. When there is intimidation, when there is a conscription to the Russian army and no one asks you if you want to serve for the Russian army or not, otherwise you can be criminally persecuted. If you publicly dare to say that Crimea is Ukraine, you can be detained for at least 5 years. And the situation, of course, is that my homeland, Crimea, has been turned into a military base of the Russian Federation with 2.5 Ukrainians as hostages. And unfortunately, with this repressive reality, Ukrainian citizens have been squeezed out and the newcomers have been actively brought to the Crimean Peninsula, and at least 500,000 of Russian people already in Crimea. And this caused a great concern not only to Ukraine locally, but to the whole peace process and security process in the Black Sea region. And of course, Turkey is one of those countries that geopolitically is the ally country and strategic partner of Ukraine. And I believe that together with Turkey, we can promote peace processes, including the reintegration of the occupation of my homeland. And I'm very thankful that Sayın Cumhurbaşkanı Recep Tayyip Erdogan and the Minister of Foreign Affairs Mevlut Çavuşoğlu several times stressed that Crimea is Ukraine and that Turkey is committed to the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine. So how I actually elaborate my experience that I received in 2014 in Crimea today. Actually, the initiative that my country is at the moment trying to promote, which is a Crimea platform, this is a new initiative of my country, and I'm very thankful that President Volodymyr Zelensky is actively pushing this initiative, was offered by myself, is that we have to consolidate our international effort if we are not speaking about the war or the aggressive policies, if we are committed to peace. So we have to find other diplomatic instruments to get the territories back. And for this reason, we will launch the Crimea Platform Summit 23rd of August in Kiev, while my president invited many leaders of the world to visit Kiev and to reconsider our approaches in terms of what could be done in terms of the occupied territories. What more should we do all together as the community, as the international community, in order to deal with those really difficult, really horrible consequences that, for example, my country faces. And just to conclude my speech, why women are the very natural negotiators, I will bring you a very personal example. When in 2014, I was absent, I was not in home, and I had a daughter, she was only 5 years old, her name is Iman, And I never discussed politics in front of her, but somehow, of course, she was very much integrated into that reality as I really traveled the whole Crimea, and she couldn't see me for almost 2 months. And when she asked me, she said, Mommy, what is going on in our country? What is going on in Crimea? Who is responsible for this? And somehow she heard on the media about President Putin, and she asked me about President Putin, if he was responsible. And of course, I tried to adapt my answer as far as she's 5 years old child. And then she said, Mommy, let us buy a present and go to Moscow and talk to President Putin, and then he can give us Crimea back. I said that this probably would not work out. And then she said, what if we buy a gun in the shop, and what if he will be scared and he will get our home back? I said that this was also probably not the issue for the solution. And then she said, if President Putin has children, I said yes. And then in a while she said, if he has children, why he occupied Crimea? And this is the question that I can't find the answer to. So I'm working for 7-8 years hard, 24/7, in different capacities, trying to get my homeland back. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Jabarova, for this very touching story indeed. Now, I want to turn to Günay Afendiyeva. You are the president of the International Turkic Culture and Heritage Foundation. That's why I want to direct this question to you. Regarding the Turkic world and in your personal experience, do you find the contribution of female leaders and female peacemakers to the region enough, or do you see a lot of room for growth?
Thank you very much, dear Elif Hanım. But first of all, Uluslararası Türk Kültür Miras Vakfı adından ben sizin her birinizi salamlıyorum burada ve Antalya'da, güzel Antalya'mızda, sevimli Türkiye'mizde bulunmaktan çok şad olmamı demek isterim. And of course, first of all, I would like to congratulate you, all organizers of this significant forum, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Turkey, all organizers for this significant forum, for this important event, and not only for creating the opportunity for all of us to share our views on the issues we are discussing today, but you know, we missed each other, we missed events face to face. And I am very glad that Antalya Diplomatic Forum is the first after a very long time. It is very pleasing that it's happening in beautiful Antalya, in our lovely Turkey, where many successful events, international events have taken place, attracting world attention. And I am confident that this forum will be one of them. As for our subject, I would like to go back in history. And since ancient times, women in the Turkic world have been considered a symbol of peace and harmony. Women have always been accepted as protectors of the home and caretaker of the family. Gender equality, which has become an international trend in our days, has existed in Turkic customs and traditions since ancient times. For example, you know, Turkic-speaking people, all of them, they have common roots. And one of our common epics, our literary monuments, is Dede Gorgut, very old epic, where the image of Turkic woman riding a horse and striking a sword is given in the words of main personage, Gan Turalı, the son of Ganlı Hoca. Or we have well-known female historical figures such as Mamina Hatun, Sara Hatun, Tutubika, who were brought up with such advanced culture and worldview. Sara Hatun, for example, the mother of Akgoyunlu ruler Uzun Hasan, is considered the first female diplomat in the Eastern world. She is well known for having resolved disputes between the Ottoman Sultan Fatih Mehmed II and Uzun Hasan peacefully through smart diplomacy for many years. Or other examples, the first peace agreement with China on behalf of the great Hun Empire was signed by Tanrıkut Mete Hagan's wife. Suvar, we have a lot of persons. I would like to list some of them because they are international, but they are all of Turkic world. Suvar Türk Buharuk Hatun, Göktürk Hagan Ton Yukuk's daughter Hagan Hatun, Kül Tekin's mother Bilge Hatun, his wife Kutlu Sultan, Uyghur Türk Dilşat Hatun, Toktamış Han's granddaughter Bika Hatun, Razia Beyim Sultan, Crimean Khan Karim Geray's wife Amina Banu, and many, many others. And from this point of view, in modern world, I would like to note the services of the Vice President of the Republic of Azerbaijan, Mrs. Mihriban Aliyeva, who is one of the leading women of the Turkic world. The projects implemented under her leadership, as well as her achievements and good deeds, have gained an important reputation both within the country and in the international arena. The position of women in Turkish society is on such a high that she is able to reconcile even blood enemies. For example, if a Turkic woman threw her headscarf between two warring parties, as a sign of respect for her, neither side would attack the other. Because a woman and a mother are sacred beings, her headscarf is the honor of Turkic man, a symbol of peace. And as stated in our holy book, the Quran, paradise is under the feet of mothers. So, according to Turkic Islamic culture, where a woman's foot touches, the gardens of paradise will blossom, life will prosper, wars, anti-maladies, murders, and massacres will stop, peace will be established. The International Turkic Culture Heritage Foundation supports research and activities in this direction. Our foundation, established by the initiative of the President of the Republic of Azerbaijan and with the support of the President of the Republic of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyz Republic, and Republic of Turkey. And we have a lot of projects to promote our cultural heritage in the world. But in this view, we support research and activities. For example, we are in the process of realizing various projects of protecting and transferring the works of creative Turkic women to the next generations. As a part of these activities, for example, a book entitled Anthology of Poetry by Women in Azerbaijan was published as a part of the big project of poetesses of the Turkic world, Kaitenic works of famous Azerbaijani poetesses. I would like to highlight one a poem by Gülsüm, very famous Azerbaijani poetess, Gülsüm, where she says, I mourned, dragged down into grief, I listened to all the bitter cries. This poem is called A Tearful Melody and has been dedicated by Gülsüm to the Turkish soldiers who were exiled to the Nargin Island during the First World War. Of course, our activities just not publications. This is a lot of organizing conference and other things. And I want to say one thing too. During the 44 days of the just struggle for the liberation of the historical and ancient lands of Azerbaijan, Nagorno-Karabakh and surrounding areas, the Armenian side committed provocative terrorist acts in the territories of Azerbaijan, like Ganja, Barda, cities of Azerbaijan, launching rockets to civilian areas miles away from the war zone, killing innocent people, destroying settlements, cultural and religious monuments. During this period, I had read in the news that a well-known Armenian journalist was inspired by the killing of children and women as a result of the rocket attacks on Ganja and called on the army to increase the number of Azerbaijani civilian casualties by launching more missiles. To be honest, the call had shocked me greatly. If a woman, mother, turned into a vicious predator who calls for civilian killings, she has already lost the very essence of femininity. So maybe we can think about this.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Now I want to turn to Ayşe Gülbiçer, our very special guest today. And well, for those of you who do not know the Mothers of Diyarbakır, it is a group who gathers daily for a sit-in protest demanding the return of their children who were kidnapped by the Kurdistan Workers' Party. So Ayşegül, please, can you please tell us what you think mothers or women in this regard can bring and can contribute to the peace process in the region that men cannot?
Evladını PKK terör örgütüne
Böyle yapın, bakın, böyle vurun. Böyle vurun kendini. Bakın. Ha, şimdi çalışır herhalde.
After Ayşe Gülbiçer's answer, we will go through long questions.
Tamam.
Time permits, so just a kind reminder that you would be invited to join the conversation.
Öncelikle ben Antalya Diploması Forumu'nda olduğum için, buraya çağrıldığım için feryadımı duyan Sayın Cumhurbaşkanımız Recep Tayyip Erdoğan'a ve Sayın Dışişleri Bakanımız Mevlüt Çavuşoğlu'na çok teşekkürlerimi iletiyorum ve hepinize hoş geldiniz diyorum. Ben Diyarbakır'dan buraya katıldım. Diyarbakır'da evladını terörün pençesine kaptıran bir anne olarak burada Diyarbakır annelerini temsilen buradayım. Diyarbakır'da 2 yılı aşkın süredir 3 Eylül 2019'dan bu yana evlat nöbeti başladı. Bu evlat nöbeti birçok ilimize yayıldı. Çünkü yıllardır PKK ve siyasi kolu olan HDP'nin zulmüne biz Kürtler maruz kalıyoruz. Sözde Kürtlerin savunucusu olduğunu söyleyen HDP biz Kürtlere zulmediyor. Artık biz Kürtler onlardan bıktık, sıkıldık, yıkıldık. Yeter diyoruz artık pis ellerini çeksinler evlatlarımızın üstünden. Çünkü biz annelerin, kadınların hakkı varsa, çünkü akşama kadar meydanlarda kadınları savunduklarını söylüyorlar. Kadınlara zulüm yapılmasın diye meydanlara dökülüyorlar. Halbuki yıllardır biz kadınlar en çok zulmü HDP ve PKK'dan gördük. Biz çocuklarımızı HDP aracılığıyla PKK'ya kaptırdık. Çünkü HDP siyasi görünümlü, halbuki Kandil'e aracılık yapan bir siyasi partidir. Evlatlarımızı ön kapıdan alıp arka kapıdan Kandil'e gönderen bir partidir. Evlatları PKK tarafından kaçırılan aileler Diyarbakır HDP İl Başkanlığı önünde 03.09.2019 günü oturma eylemi başlatmıştır. Diyarbakır annelerinin eylemi 655 gündür devam etmektedir. Şu ana kadar 229 aile evlat nöbetine katılmıştır ve 25 aile evladına kavuştu. Diyarbakır annelerinin yanı sıra başka illerde de başlayan evlat nöbetleri 03.09.2019 tarihinde Diyarbakır ilinde başlayan evlat nöbeti 07.02.2020 tarihinde İzmir ilimizde, 10.09.2020 tarihinde Şırnak ilimizde, 08.01.2021 tarihinde Hakkari ilimizde, 26.02.2020 tarihinde Van ilimizde, 07.04.2021 tarihinde Muş ilimizde ve 29.02.2020'de Almanya Berlin'de başlayarak büyümeye devam etmiştir. Kaçırılan, kandırılan 231 evladın %30'u kız çocuğu, %30'u erkek çocuğudur. 54 kız, 177 erkek evlat kaçırılıp kandırılarak dağa götürülmüştür. Kaçırılan 231 evladın %37'si olan 83 evlat 18 yaşından, %15'i 33 evlat 15 yaşından küçüktür. Evlat nöbeti tutan ailelerden birinin 2 evladı birden PKK tarafından kandırılıp dağa kaçırılmıştır. Evlat nöbeti tutan 229 ailenin 7'si asker ve polis ailesidir. 5 asker ve 2 polisimiz Gara'da kalleşçe şehit edilmiştir. Şimdi ben buradan soruyorum, diyorum ki Avrupa İnsan Hakları, Çocuk Hakları, Kadın Hakları diye platformlar var. Diyorum ki biz 2 yıla yakın süredir Diyarbakır HDP il binasının önünde evlat mücadelesi vermekteyiz. Biz hakkımızı isterken defalarca tehditlere maruz kaldık. Evim kundaklandı PKK tarafından. Evladımı istediğim için yolda hastanede gelirken yolum kesilerek tehdit edildim. 2 kız çocuğumla tehdit edildim. Diyorum ki biz annelerin hakkı nerede? Evlatlarımızı isterken neden kötü oluyoruz? Yani diyorum ki buradan Avrupa'da dış güçler de duysun artık sesimizi. Gerçekten yani 655 gündür orada evlat nöbeti verirken bizim sesimizi duymayan Avrupa. Biz kimseden hiçbir şey istemedik. Sadece hakkımız olan evlatlarımızı istedik. Ve biz isterken bizi görmeyen birçok siyasi parti var. Birçok Avrupa ülkeleri var. Ben buradan hepsine seslenmek istiyorum. Ben bugün Diyarbakır annelerini ve babalarını temsilen buradayım. Ben de evladım PKK kaptırmış bir anne olarak diyorum ki artık herkes sesimizi duysun. Evlatlarımızı dağdan indirmemiz için mücadele etmemiz gerekiyor. Ve mücadele ederken güçlü insanlara ihtiyacımız var. Ve Avrupa dış güçler PKK'ya destek vermezse, PKK Allah'ın izniyle Türkiye'min gücüyle, Cumhurbaşkanımın gücüyle PKK bitecektir. Ben bir Kürt olarak diyorum ki artık dibese yeter artık diyoruz. Yıkıldık, dayanamıyoruz. Yüreğimiz yangın gözleriyle dolu. 2 kız çocuğum daha var. Onlara fırsat bulamıyorum. Onlara fırsat ayıramıyorum. Çünkü ben birini ararken ikisini de mağdur ediyorum. Bunu bize yaşatmaya hiç kimsenin hakkı yok. Ben Diyarbakır'dan buraya geldim feryadımı duyurmaya. Diyarbakır annelerinin feryadını duyurmaya geldim. Umuyorum ki bu forumda sesimizi duyacaklar ve bize Diyarbakır'a desteğe gelecekler. Onlar da bizimle beraber evlatlarımızı hain taşeron terör örgütünden isteyecektir. Bir daha diyorum ki madem ki çocuk hakları varsa bizim Diyarbakır evlat nöbetinde oturan annelerin çoğunun çocuğu 8-9 yaşlarında, 10 yaşında, 11-12 yaşlarında. Benimkisi 16 yaşındaydı. Bunlara hakkı nerede? Haklarını istiyoruz ve hepinize çok teşekkür ediyorum. Biz anneler olarak sonuna kadar kararlıyız. Size şu şekil bir şey de göstermek istiyorum. Bu biz evlat nöbeti tutan annelerin yayılan bölgelere, ondan sonra tuttuğumuz günlerin sayısı. Biz diyoruz ki biz anneler güçlüyüz. Anneler isterse dağları delebilir. Biz anneler olarak evladımızı kazanıncaya kadar ölüsüyle dilisiyle. Çünkü ilk gün de demiştik. Ya zafer ya ölüm sonuna kadar biz kararlıyız.
Thank you very much, Ayşegül Biçer, for sharing your personal experience and your thoughts as a woman, as a mother that is after peace in the region. Now, we don't have much time left, but I really want to take your contribution as well. So many men and male contributors here too, so it will be interesting to hear your questions. Please make sure that you stick to our topic, which is a female contribution to peacemaking. Please go ahead. Yeah. Please wait for the microphone, sir.
So I am representing the Turkey Council office in Budapest. First of all, congratulations organizing this panel. So to say that it was selected and invited excellent politicians for the 21st century. That with permission, I will raise some questions related to the panelists. That efendim biz Gagavuzistan efendim Türkologların kalbine çok yakın bir ülke. Efendim Gagavuzistan'ın modernleşmesinde Gagavuzcanın dili nasıl kalacak? Ne rolü var? Nasıl bu çok ilginç ve güzel bir dili nasıl muhafaza edebilirsiniz? Related to Africa, I think the African Union, it is a very important body, and Africa is an important for the future. Madam Minister, is it a chance? What is the role of the women politicians in the African Union to make it this beautiful continent to be nicer, better, and more functionable? So that's
Thank you very much.
all the world is well known that Madam Deputy Foreign Minister Amina Japarova representing the Crimean Tatars, and we know everybody the life of the Crimean Tatars is a very hard and very complicated.
Thank you very much, sir, for your question. I'm very sorry to cut you off, but we don't have much time left,
Okay,
and
so
I really want to hear other questions
would
as
you
well.
be kind to say something about the Crimean Tatars who are living in Russian occupation in Crimea? Could you use the Crimean Tatar language in the schools? And Günay Efendi, congratulations, and the Azerbaijani politician, an excellent. Ayşegül'e teşekkürler sizin bize anlattığınız şeyler. Çok teşekkürler.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry.
Teşekkür ederim. Çok yönümlü soruşu kaldırdınız siz. Ama ben isterim söylemeye, ben konuşurum Gagavuz dilinde. Siz hepsiniz beni anlarsınız. Hem Gagavuz'da bizim insan bilir, konuşur bizim Gagavuz dilinde. Biz onu koruyoruz. Her bir okulda, her bir kreşte bizim çocuklar öğreniyorlar. Gagavuz dilinde hem başka dillerde. İsterim söyleme, hani 26 yıl ne zaman kuruldu bizim Gagavuz yerimiz. Hem ne biz düşünürdük o zaman açan bizim Gagavuz oldu. Hani ilk lazım Gagavuz dilini koruma, bizim adetlerimizi, bizim historiyamızı. Ben sanırım hani biz bu soruları çözeriz. Hem her bir platformada, her bir platformada bu ideaları söyleriz. Hem de teklif ederim sizi Gagavuz'a. Siz gelirsiniz, görersiniz nasıl biz severiz bizim dilimizi, nasıl biz konuşuruz bizim dilimizde. Bizim insanımız, bizim halkımız çok açık, çok güzel, çok çalışkan. Lazım gelirsiniz, görersiniz bizim adetlerimizi. Teklif ederim size.
Thank you so much. Great. Any other questions, maybe? Please go ahead.
My name is Hatice Nursena Yücel, and I'm a student from Social Sciences University of Ankara. And my question will be for Her Excellency, Ma'am Omano. And I want to ask her what should be done to ensure women inclusion in peacemaking processes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your question. That's a question that we have been asking ourselves since UN resolution, UN Security Council Resolution 3025 was proclamated. And the object there was to raise the profile of women and to place them in decision-making positions, to increase the number of negotiators, conflict managers, and to just make women part and parcel of the process of peacemaking and also the process of security sector reform. Now, that's been 20 years now, 20 years. And as we were reflected on the efficacy of that resolution, we have realized that it was an excellent resolution. It catalyzed our thinking about peace, women, and peace and security. But the results on the ground have not been as effective as we would have wished, primarily because not very many people knew about the resolution, and we did not put into place the processes that would facilitate implementation. So our challenge now is to, first of all, ask, where are the threats? What kind of threats are they? And how do women contribute? My colleague has raised the issue of women being victims of kidnapping, abduction. Now that's a big issue in Africa now, and it's associated with terrorism. It's associated with organized crime. So the question now becomes, how do you raise the voices of women in those circumstances? So first, you must mobilize at the ground. Yeah, you must mobilize at the ground. Two, you have to support women at the grassroots. It's all very well to say, get engaged, but women need to be supported. They need to be supported empathetically, they need to be supported by resources, and they need to be supported by their communities. Secondly, states have to take the security of women seriously. Often when we think of conflict, we only see men. We don't see women. So we need to understand that women are victims of conflicts. And how do you then secure them in those circumstances? So like I said in my first intervention, you have to see women first. If you don't see them, then you can't understand their needs. If you can't understand their needs, then you can't help them lead in positions of conflict. There's a lot of work, for instance, that's being done at the AU level, where we have, FemWise, which is a network for women to deal with conflict management. We have Alwyn, a network of women engaged in women's issues, peace and security, and so on. But what we have to be able to do is bring those issues from the periphery to the center. Women are always add-ons in the conflict. They're always the ones we remember last. What we have to be able to do is to bring in the leaders early, whether it is in nation building, whether it is in conflict management, whether it is in dealing with refugees. We have to bring in the women early. And that is the challenge of the efficacy of UN Resolution 1325, is bringing in action for women early and making it a priority. It's a long journey, but it's young people like you that will make that change. Young people like you who, if they love peace, and if they understand that women are key partners in peace, that will be able to push this process forward. We're old now. We have done our bit. We're looking for young women like yourself who will not be afraid to stand up and say that women must be counted, they must be heard, they must be seen, they must be involved. I thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for this, Mrs. Omamo. A very strong message, I guess, to our younger generation. Now, as we're running out of time, I want to give the stage to our panelists one more time to hear their final remarks, perhaps one-sentence messages to, younger generation, especially female leaders. Mrs. Vla, would you like to start, perhaps?
Teşekkür ederim size. Hepsini teşekkür ederim ki burada bu salonda toplandı. Ben görüyorum siz hepsi bilirsiniz, anlarsınız. Bu problemalı biz kaldırdık bu panelde. Sanırım bu gençler kim oturuyor burada hepsi bu soruları her zaman kaldıracak, destek verecek. Hem biz lazım olan bir yerde daha çalışın daha çok bizim geleceğimiz daha iyi, daha güzel yaşasın. Sağ olasınız.
Please.
I would ask that you engage in intergenerational dialogue, that young women and more experienced women talk often. That's how you build the women's movement for this generation, and that you use the platforms that are available, the social media, all those things that you young people use to communicate. Use them to empower other women. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Mrs. Jabarova.
As my final remark and my final conclusion is about that we can join many international coalitions, frames, formats about equality of men and women, like implementing the 1325 resolution, what my country was honored to be a part of as the non-permanent member of the Security General. But if we do not change the perception, and if every country that is being committed to this equality will not cope with the home task, this will not work out. And in my country, I'm very happy that we have the numbers that we demonstrate within 5-7 years is something that is about thinking globally but acting locally, where over 15% of women are in the armed forces of Ukraine, where over 25% of women are in the parliament, where half of the women are in the municipal and local authorities, where the executive branch of power has been covered totally by women. I think that this is something that really about changing the perception when we see women in the international forums, and this is only the way how we can change the consciousness, and this is always about the long path, and I'm very happy for those ladies whom I can see today as those who are very much interested in the issues of leadership. Çok sağ olun.
Efendim, please.
Ben üzümü gençlerimize tutmak istiyorum. Genç kadınlarımıza tutmak istiyorum ama aynı zamanda erkeklerimize de en önemlisi eğitim. Eğitim mutlaka iyi eğitim almanız vacip, çok lazım. Aynı zamanda kendi soylarınıza bağlı olmanız lazım ve kendi kültürünüzü, aynı zamanda dünya kültürünü çok iyi bilmeniz lazım. Ben düşünüyorum ki bu çok daha yüksek bir pozisyona, yani çok yükseklere sizi getirecektir. Aynı zamanda barış, huzur, sevgi dolu günler diliyorum hepinize.
Ben de son olarak söylemek istediğim bizim çocuklarımız kaçırılıp dağa götürüldü, eğitimleri ve hayalleri ellerinden alındı. Benim de buradan gençlere çağrımdır, okuyun, eğitiminizi alın. Çünkü dağa gidip hayatınız tamamen elinizden alınıyor. Ben buradan çocuklarımıza çağrıda bulunmak istiyorum sizin aracılığınızla. Lütfen geri dönün, güzel sancağım, güzel devletimin kollarında yaşayın. Devletim çok güçlü. Allah'ın izniyle çocuklarımızı geri kazanacağız ve hepinize ayrı ayrı teşekkürlerimi sunuyorum. Çok sağ olun.
And I want to thank every one of my distinguished guests here for joining us today, for being with us today and sharing your personal experiences and your insights and thoughts. And this is your applause, my fellow panelists. Thank you.